Hey guys, Zedishin here and welcome back to the channel. I honestly wanted to try and make this video a little bit sooner than I am now. However, honestly, getting to try this deck out over the weekend was really cool. So this deck that I'm making a profile for, I went to Imperial's case event over the weekend, and I made fourth. I top cut with this really interesting deck. It was a Hermes deck, but with Zephrog. Really cool idea. I kind of was cooking this deck up a little bit. I want to say 2-3 weeks, close to almost a month before Firestorm released. This, in my opinion, was one of my really most anticipated decks that I really wanted to try out. Mainly because Hermes, and then mainly because of Zephrog. I was helping out with a couple different, like, demo stuff and trying to think of different cool ways to, make comparisons from Elestrals to other games. And as I was going through a lot of the cards, one of my favorite, I don't know what you'd call it, like my favorite archetype back when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And to this day was Toons. I love Maximilian Pegasus, and he is by far one of my favorite all-time characters. Half the time because of his voice. I love that the character's voice is really fun. And then a little bit because of the fact that I just love the idea that you have this goofy little adorable goober. Hi, little goober. And they're just extremely terrifying. And you're like, how is that cartoonish little thing just wreaking havoc? So, knowing the Toons playstyle and getting to see that, oh, Elestrals has some of these really cool, really cool strategies that you can do that's very similar to Toons. I thought, why not take that and put that into Elestrals? Let me try that out. Let me see if I can make something work. And when I was trying to figure it out, Water Reanimator was one thing, or like Wind was another, but I was like, nothing really fit. And then, as one of my friends, James, what he said to me, he said, try it with Hermes in the upcoming Firestorm set. And for about a month before Firestorm launched, I said, let me try and cook up a deck. And getting to really see the toolbox, my favorite strategy is Graveyard Control, or like Graveyard Toolbox. I love toolbox stuff. So I'm gonna start going over the deck. However, I'm just gonna let you guys know, like, the combos I'll go over a little bit in the end, but like, just this deck is super fun. The combos were insane, and there are ways that I can say, going forward, you could be able to implement different, and I will definitely be trying this deck alongside a couple other decks in the coming premieres and stuff. So let's get started. First off, this is your main Elestral package. This is pretty much the start of every game. You're gonna want Spine Nymph, so you start with 3 Spine Nymph, 3 Carrion, 3 Spine Nymph Champion of Hermes, 3 Carrion Champion of Hermes, and then 2 Spinosect Champion of Hermes. So the big thing with these guys is that you want to see Hermes, and you want to really cook and do a lot of different combos with them. So Spine Nymph Champion of Hermes, on normal cast, search your deck for a Hermes and add it to your hand. That is your divine for the deck. Hermes is your biggest biggest combo piece, and the thing that this deck fully revolves around. From there, you can disenchant a Wind from the Spine Nymph in order to special ascend into a Spinosect from hand or deck. One thing I kept wanting to mess around with was something in a later deck list that I'm going to try a couple weeks from now. I want to, when I have some time, I'm going to do it. But like that effect can go into the old Spinosect or this Spinosect. So I really want to try and mess around with going for both. But the big thing is, Spinosect is big because of the fact that on cast, doesn't matter whether it's special cast or normal cast or ascension, just on enter pretty much, you get to return an Elestral to its owner's hand. And because it doesn't target and because it doesn't specify opponent or you, your opponent needs to respond before you make your decision, which is really good. On top of which, when this is sent from field or deck to the underworld, you can nexus up to 2 wind to anything on your board. Pretty much saying Hermes uses his effect, which I'll go over later, but pretty much you send the Spinosect from deck to underworld, then you nexus at least one of them over to Spynymph, and then Spynymph now is able to use its effect and go into Spinosect. Now, Carrion, the last one of this trifecta here, is really necessary because of the other cards I'll be going over next. But Carrion's effect is pretty simple, and the reason why I'm going Hermes instead of Aeolus is because when this is sent from your deck to the underworld with Hermes' effect, you can actually special cast this, not using your normal cast, from the underworld, and you get to enchant a wind to it from the underworld. So it's spirit efficient. Unlike Aeolus with Galaxair, where that new Galaxair champ of Aeolus has you enchant from your spirit deck, this one enchants from underworld. So you're actually able to be spirit efficient, and the longevity of this deck, especially with the fact that you go pretty heavy in your spirit investment, it's a lot. So any way that you can really modify and get some efficiency is really good. Next up, we have, in my opinion, the best combo piece of the deck, and the reason I built it, 3 Zephrog. So, and I'll add this in here, 1 Chrysaor. I really wanted to probably make Chrysaor the bigger powerhouse of the deck, and I might add more in the future when messing around with it, but these 2 are in what I would call, your tunes, Yugi. Yes. The tune cards were always ones that said they can attack your opponent's life points directly as long as you had Toon World and your opponent didn't own a tune. These guys can attack your opponent's spirit deck directly just cuz. And this was amazing, because then on damage, and it does not actually need to do direct damage, but both of them have effects that activate when you deal them damage, when you deal your opponent damage. Zephrog being the biggest one, which is you get to look at your opponent's hand. Verbatim, they just show you their hand, and then you discard 1 card from it. Meaning, this disrupts your opponent's hand, actually can get rid of key pieces if necessary, and on top of which, it's card knowledge, which is big in any card game, which is one of the reasons why the original Sparkit actually got banned, because it was way too powerful, as well as for very little investment, you also got to very easily look at your opponent's hand and rip one out on a very consistent basis. This one is a lot less consistent and a lot more interactable. However, Zephrog being able to have your opponent reveal their hand is really big, just off the fact that you get to look at everything. And then imagine if you're playing over a webcam, which is a little harder to remember how many cards are in their hand and some of those things, you're able to just have that knowledge of, say, let me see what your hand is. Zephrog, in my opinion, was really good, and because of the fact that with Hermes, you're able to special out Carrion right away. You go, here's Carrion, and then immediately go Zephrog, or immediately go into Chrysaor. So, and then Chrysaor's effect is when it deals damage, you heal 2 wind. So, this is more longevity, and it does have a higher base stat. So, there's a good chance I might, in the future, split it up and go 2 and 2. But for this event, I went 3-1, because I really wanted to focus more on Zephrog than Chrysaor, but I wanted both in the deck. So that is the big thing for me. The last couple Elestrals in the deck are just your very generic, Elestrals. 3 Astrabbit, and then 2 of the new Sparkit Escape from Tartarus. This is big. I originally had a card that's in my side deck now, and I was like, you know what? Instead of having this for maybe some more pressure, I said, screw it. I want more hand knowledge. I want more chances to, disrupt my opponent. So I went Spark It, because you can go play Spark It, and Spark It's effect is said on normal cast. This Spark It can look at up to 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, and you get to discard one of them. So on summon, I say, let me look at 2 cards from your hand. Most of the time there's 2 random cards. You'll roll dice and be like, all right, cool. So let's say you have 4 cards in hand. I roll a 2 and a 4. I look at the second card and the 4th card in your hand. They reveal them, and I'm like, all right, cool. And let me discard the 1. This is really good because, again, it's hand knowledge and it's hand disruption. Some people might not like it, but I love it because the hand disruption that you get to have is a little bit too important for me to want to discount this card. Its second effect really doesn't matter so much, but you can Nexus up to 2 Thunder. It's okay, not that great, but the last thing is Astrabbit. Everyone knows Astrabbit. If you didn't watch my last video with Glaciersa, I'll go over it again, and pretty much any deck I'll always go over it because it's really good. This is a Pot of Duality on legs. Pretty much just, when this receives 1 or more Thunder, you could look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, and then shuffle the rest back. One of the best Elestrals in this game. If this card ever does get hit, I would say it would probably be for good reason, only for the fact that it's like, if at this point it's one of those, like, if a deck can run Rabbit, you are running Rabbit. This is your best 3 of in any deck that can throw at least 2 Thunder in their Spirit deck, because I don't know what else to play Rabbit, because your turn 1 play of play Rabbit, look at the top 3 is just too good, and especially in a deck that needs to see their pieces, you must run 3 of these guys. So that's it for the Elestrals. But going into the runes, first up will be like your very generic package of 3 Ambrosia, 3 Gorgon's Gaze, and then 2 Shield of Achilles. This is like your main interaction package. This is like your just very generic auto include into most decks. Ambrosia, very simple, and this is a nice new tournament pack season 3 art. I love this art, and I aim to find a couple more of these as well. But for 1 spirit, you get to heal up to 3 spirits of any element. Really good. Gorgon's Gaze, your biggest interruption piece. This one just gets to interact with anything. You get to target an Elestral. If its effect is on the chain, you get to negate it, and then that Elestral is suppressed, cannot receive enchantments, attack, nexus, or ascend. Pretty much just, it turns the Elestral to stone, hence the Gorgon on it. And then Shield of Achilles, just if your opponent attacks, you can activate this, expend spirits equal to the enchantment cost of the Elestral that is attacking, and then bounce it back to the opponent's hand. Just negate attack, bounce it back. Sometimes this is really good just for like keeping board control. If your opponent has something that's small, that's like, all right, this is easy, just bounce it back. Or simply, if your opponent has a big guy and then they run in with a big guy that's like 3 cost, their big boss, you just bounce it back, and that really helps sway the tide of the game. Next up, in my opinion, the like more generic way to grab cards, 2 Nectar of the Gods, and then 1 Drops of Leaf. Drops of Leaf, a really interesting card in my opinion. I'm not a big fan of it, but also at the same time, I love it. It's like a love-hate relationship. If you see Drops of Leaf, sometimes you're the happiest person alive. Other times, you kind of wish you had it, but then when you do have it, sometimes you need to really take a gamble. It's your like reset button of sorts. You get to pay for 2 spirits, reveal cards from your hand, any amount of it. You shuffle those cards back in your deck, and then draw that much +1. So if your hand is really bad and you just brick, but you have a Drops of Leaf, instead of mulliganing, I would recommend keeping it, because then the Drops of Leaf can go reveal your hand or reveal whatever you don't want to keep, shuffle it back, draw that much +1. And then Nectar of the Gods, in my opinion, is a card that didn't get to see that much play in previous metas, but It's been around since set 1, and in my opinion, I love it. It's literally Pot of Greed. It's for 2 spirits, draw 2 cards. You it's just the old what does Pot of Greed do? I love this. You get to really draw cards. You need to see it, and yes, I know sometimes that 2 spirits could be necessary for other things. Maybe this could be in place of better cards, but in my opinion, in this new Firestorm meta and really going forward, I would say seeing your cards is so important that I would rather put Nectar of the Gods in here over a couple extra toolbox cards, only for the fact that I'm like, well, if I see those cards, okay, that's great, but like, there's a chance I could see more. And like, if I have a hand that I mostly want to keep, but I might feel like I want to mulligan it, but I see a Nectar of the Gods, I'm more inclined to use those 2 spirits for Nectar of the Gods so I can keep my hand than use those 2 spirits to fix my hand entirely with mulliganing and then hope to God I can draw some semblance of a better hand. So Nectar of the Gods, in my opinion, a really necessary card, a really good card. And I think going forward, it will see a lot more play in a lot more decks. I hope. It's just my opinion, but I really hope so. Next up is your main package of the deck, the main combo piece. Your 3 Divine Hermes, 3 of Hermes Trickery, my favorite card in Firestorm, I kid you not. And then 3 Divine Healing. This is your package. And this is the like main part of the deck. In my opinion, it's really good. Hermes, as I kind of alluded to before, it's the divine that gets to essentially make an underworld toolbox. So when you cast Hermes, you can put up to 4 wins on it, so you can have up to 4 wins when you cast it. You can disenchant 2 wind from Hermes in order to search your deck for any wind Elestral and then send it to the underworld. So anything. Carrion, Zephrog, Spinosect, Chrysor. Go to the 3-drops. Penterror. What is it? Blizzstrix. And Fornax. Just, if it has 1 wind on it, at least 1, it's searchable for Hermes. And it sends it to the underworld. Why would you want it to go to the underworld? Simple. Because that's what Hermes wants to do. You either get plus off of some of the Champion of Hermes cards, or the next best card, Hermes Trickery. It's a counter rune that says, for 1 wind, this can only be played if Hermes is enchanted on the board. Destroy an Elestral on your field. That is cost. So that removes the Elestral on board, and then can free up certain parts of the board to say, okay, well, if they're trying to target you, well, hi, nope, you lost your target. If you do, special cast another Elestral from your underworld using only spirits that were enchanting the original Elestral, or the destroyed Elestral. So you just get to swap, and this is the best thing. This does not specify wind. This does not specify that you need to summon a wind, that you have to use only wind, that you need... It doesn't specify anything. And this is why I love this card, and this is my favorite card going into this format. Because you just get the toolbox anything. If you have a 1 spirit on board, but it has 3 spirits under it, Hermes Trickery, boom, there's your 3-spirit boss from the underworld. Like Penterror, like Stratamoth, Flammomoth, Blizzstrix. And this is your key part, because you're essentially able to, if you, let's say you have a Spinosect on board, Spinosect in Underworld, Hermes Trickery, boom. Now it swaps. Now you have stuff. If you're trying to attack extend, and you go, alright, well, I have the Spinosect, I attack, I dealt damage, and then, you know what, let me try and, eke out a little bit more of an attack extension. Hermes Trickery, sack the thing that you'd had, here's a Zephrog, attack, and discard a card, or here's a Chrysor, attack, heal 2. It's just really good. There's so much future applications for this, and I think as long as a deck can run Hermes, even if all you're doing is putting Hermes in there for the Trickery, Perfectly fine. You don't even need Hermes' effect to make Trickery work. And then the last thing, Divine Healing. For one, it's an invoke rune that says for one spirit, enchant up to 3 of any element spirits from your underworld to a divine on your field. Because Hermes is such a necessary card for this deck, and you need to kind of either keep Hermes on the board for Trickery, or you need to keep Hermes on the board to continuously use his effect. And after 2 times of using Hermes' effect, Hermes gets destroyed. Divine Healing is the most useful tech card in this deck because you're just able to refresh the spirits on Hermes and then keep going again and again. Almost done with the deck. The last 3 cards of the deck are more generic options. 2 Tsunami and then 1 Hurricane. The Hurricane, very simple. You're running Thunder, you're running Wind, and you're running Water. Actually, yeah, you're running Water. Almost forgot. But yeah, so you're naturally running these elements. So Hurricane, one of the best removals for any back row, just destroys every face down rune on the board. Super good. And then Tsunami, just a really good answer for most decks that aren't playing Water. Change all Elestrals to defense position unless they're Water enchanted. So just really good mitigating the board. That's it for the main deck. Spirit deck, very simple, numbers. 3, 6, 9, 11. 11 wind. It's your main element. So, you want to run a lot of wind because a lot of your stuff is wind. Then you're going to be running 4 thunder, 3 water, and then 2 earth. This is pretty much the main numberings that you'd be running. And I think, you're pretty good. It didn't really feel like I was missing out on some elements, unless I just might have used the wrong one for taking damage, and then now I'm upset because, it's late in the game. But for the most part, it really felt good. And then for the sideboard, I will say my sideboard was the most underdeveloped of all of the all the aspects of this deck. I would say going forward, I'd probably spend the most time on this sideboard because it just felt very underwhelming. But it was mainly because I was like, you know what, the main part of the deck felt very correct, that it didn't really feel like I needed to go into the side deck for anything specific, but just more use case specific. So the thing I ended up taking out was 2 Galaxy Champion of Poseidon. This got relegated to the sideboard mainly because I felt like this didn't do as much as I would have liked it to do. Pretty much just on receive of a water, you can swap the stats of every Elestral on the board. So on summon, this becomes a 5/2, and that means if your opponent has a defense position rabbit, hey, guess what? That defense position rabbit now is a 2 defense instead of 5, and then you're able to swing over it. In my opinion, Eddie used to be really heavily used for a lot of low to the ground decks. This might take over Eddie because where Eddie swapped the position, so you'd be able to, if you're swapping a defense position to attack position, they might have been able to defensively Tsunami them back to defense. Galaxy gets around Tsunami just solely off the fact that it actually is water, so it can't be Tsunami'd. Next, I had 2 Mudslide. This was just for the artifact decks, or the decks that needed a stadium out, or a divine that it's necessary to have spirits on it. Because a lot of times now I'm noticing people are playing Demeter and Zeus with only 2 spirits because they're trying not to go too heavily into their spirit decks, unlike before. So a lot of times they'll play Zeus with 2 or Demeter with 2, use 1, and then leave it open for potential future play, just as I have it just in case. So Mudslide is good to really remove those. Or if they're playing artifacts, they have a bunch of artifacts in their rune zone. Guess what? Nope. Dead. They're gone. This is really good. This next card was the most underwhelming card, but I have plans in the future for other decks for it. Two Sirocco of Nautis. Sirocco of Nautis is a card I thought was interesting because I wanted to use it as a way to dissuade my opponent from attacking me, but every time I ended up siding it in, a lot of times it just did not feel good. I think every time I sided it in, it kind of just felt very like if I saw it, yay, guess what? Out of the 4 rounds before Top Cut, um, I only sided it in once, and I only saw it at the end of game 3 of that round, so it ended up never really coming up. But Sirocco of Nautis, until the end of the turn, players must expend 2 in order to declare an attack with an Elestral that's not wind or fire enchanted. This was just like, I want to dissuade my opponents from attacking, so if they really wanted to attack with a big boss that was going to do a lot of damage or do a lot of small attacks to really clear my field, they would need to I'd say, hey, here's this, now you're going to burn a lot in order to clear the board. Sadly, it never ended up happening. And the last bit of this was a lot more just tech one-ofs, so like a third Spinosect. Honestly, I felt like I might want to put that in the main board. 1 carry-off. Again, this actually felt more necessary in the main deck than just relegating it to the side deck, so in future decks I might move that over. A second Hurricane, a Divine Blessing, a Pandora's Box, and a Spoiled Fruit. Spoiled Fruit, pretty much just to go against anti-healing decks. Pandora's Box, because this meta is so reliant with searching. A lot of decks in this new format do seem to rely more on searching, so Pandora's Box is just an extra Gorgons and an extra way to stop those decks. Divine Blessing, very simple. It's just it's mainly there for a lot of those decks that need to utilize a single big invoke, because it will stop an opponent's invoke rune and then negate that rune. So a lot of times if they're playing Rise from the Ashes, they had to pay 3 for it. Divine Blessing, no, stop them. A Hurricane and a couple other ones that just would really devastate your field, this can stop them. And then again, Hurricane, because you have 1, it's just nice to have a second. And then to finalize the side deck, 1 Teratlis, 1 Leviathan, and 1 Vipyro, simply because you have a lot of wind in the main deck and not a lot of these other elements. By siding in spirits, Elestrals, or runes of different elements, I felt like just finalizing the side deck with extra spirits of those elements. The only one I did not put in was Owloon for the carry-off, solely because if I was siding it in, I was siding it in more for trying to stop just a body and use it as like a searchable Earthquake or a searchable removal tool, instead of just trying to use it for its effect and summoning it. But again, like going forward, I might just actually keep it in the main deck and then actually have a Lunar Spirit just for it, just in case. But hey guys, that was the deck. I think going forward, I definitely want to mess around with this deck a bit more because I love Zephrog. I think he's really cool, and you know, a lot of people I guess sleep on it, like, you know, but Hermes is one of those divines that I feel like can make a huge difference going forward, and I'd be really excited to mess around with it more and see what else I can do with it, and, you know, see what you guys think. So thank you guys so much for watching the video again. It ran a little longer. I hope maybe in the future, as I go with more of these decklist profiles and videos like this, I yap a little bit less, but I also feel like describing a little bit of the effects and a little bit of the combos and kind of thought process behind it for either new players or players that might not understand the decisions I made on why I put the cards in here that I did. So, you know, let me know in the comments what you guys think about the deck, any suggestions you guys have. I'll always appreciate it. And if you guys feel like the descriptions of the decisions I made is good, or if it was a little bit too lengthy, just for future reference. But thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys see you in the next time, in the next video. Peace.